business. I would like to open our open board meeting Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. But before I call it to order, I would like to say that we have trustees Thorne and trustee Croft sending their regrets. They may be joining us a little bit later. We can hope for that. And our chair of the board, trustee Spilsbury, is not going to be able to join us today, and she also sends her regrets. I'd like to call to order our meeting, and I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral grounds of the Coast Salish people, where we're privileged to work, play, and learn. If I could have somebody to make a motion to adopt the agenda, please. Trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Hutchins. All those in favor? Motion carries. The minutes of the March 1st open board meeting. Would somebody like to adopt those, please? Trustee DeGroot, trustee Hutchins, all those in favor? Thank you. Today we do have a delegation. We have Fatima from Nourish Cowichan joining us. Have we got her close by, Claire? Perfect. Bring them in, that'd be great. Welcome, Fatima. It's so good to have you here with us today. Hi.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
What is it you would like from us today?
Oh, I just would like to give you a little update on Nourish, and as well to thank the ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Trustees. We just celebrated 5 years as a Nourish Cowichan, and none of that will have been possible, obviously, without the support of the School District 79. And I found that has been a while since we all talked during this pandemic. And so I just wanted to address the trustees and tell you where we are at right now as an organization. So if you allow me a few minutes, it won't take much because I still have to run back and work. It never stops. So as we have been celebrating the work that's been done, we founding this 5-year mark almost to be almost the beginning of a new journey for us. In the last 2 years, we had to adapt and grow beyond anything that we had projected in our timeline. We never thought we would be where we are today, and the silver lining of COVID has forced us to grow. And we are so aware that none of that will have been possible without the school district support logistically for us to do that. That was a huge endeavor and support that came from the school district. And I don't know if you know this, previously, prior to the pandemic, our organization was doing mostly just breakfast. And as this all unfolded on all of us, our approximate budget every year was under $200,000. And since 2020, the very minimum of expenditure now is over $600,000 a year. This year we'll be reaching the $700,000 mark, and we just everywhere we look around us, we just see the need for more growth on our part. I remember our first year, we pretty much raised $27,000 in our first year of doing this. Since 2017, to over $2.5 million has been raised and mostly in the community. And those partnerships continue to grow. Our vision right now for the future has been changing to meet the demands of that we see both for youth and family that we pledge from the beginning to support, and we continue doing so. One thing that's been really good for us, and we thank you for, it was your invitation and to make us part of the Equity Scan. The pandemic was already a big eye-opening for us, but the Equity Scan has helped us also re-examine our path going forward, and that we need to chart our growth through that. We found that more than ever, we're really committed in having as a collective, that actions matter. What do we do from now on? How we grow? We're becoming more responsible in the choices that we make. And that's being really crucial for us. So thank you for inviting us to be part of that Equity Scan. One of the reasons Nourish has been able to grow and so quickly adapt is as an organization, we truly believe that we needed to lead the way from a place of yes. As an organization, we never consider saying no. We first say yes and figure out a way that we can safely, financially, and logistically deliver what's being asked for us to do. And as we renew that commitment and the promise that we made to support the students in the school district, I think we've been thinking for coming a new school year that we'll probably need to take more time and find time to sit with the school district to be able to create probably a more a strategy for communication that will be a little bit more robust than what we have now. Because we're finding sometimes some of the communications, even coming from the school district into the schools, things get lost. And some of the schools don't always know, even though I'm aware that there's been emails from the school district to the schools of what it is that we do. We find that somehow that communication is being lost, and perhaps in the future, with the new school year, we might need to revise how we communicate between Nourish and the entire school district, and make sure that everybody knows the resources and the service that we offer that are available to everyone. We just don't want to be in a place where a vulnerable child or family is left behind because we didn't do our due diligence of sitting with the school district and making sure that the communication is there. We know that the pandemic made things quite difficult in so many ways for the school staff for sometimes to handle the guidelines and demands for food distribution. But as we are moving into a new kind of sort of normal times, I think we have a really great opportunity here to make a really unprecedented contribution to how we can build that roadmap for a sustainable health food program in the schools. I think it's important that we work now preparing for what comes in September, because that is the example that we're setting now with this partnership with the school district. Is being actually really important. One thing that you're not aware of that's been happening in this past year for us, we're seeing other communities and organizations reaching out because they know of the work we have done together. And we have heard from people outside the province and the province, and we're looking at how we're going to build that roadmap so we can help other organizations and communities achieve what we have done. Because some of the organizations we spoke with, one thing that they didn't have in common with us, they didn't have that partnership that the school district has had with us. And that has been crucial for us to grow. And I would like to be able to somehow find a way that we can work together and make that a little bit better and set an example for other organizations that we'll be talking to in the future. So that pretty much, those are the things that are coming up that I would like to address and to see if we can probably find time by September to figure out better ways that we can communicate with everybody in the school district, that the schools know all the resources we offer. So for this next chapter, we are looking forward to keep working with all of you. And I just wanted to express my immense gratitude for everything that the school district has done for us, and in a way to promote our program. And we're looking forward to focus more on that side of the equity, both nutritional and educational, for both our volunteers that work in this organization and making sure that we don't have any child left behind. So thank you for allowing me this time to come and talk to you and express my gratitude.
Thank you very much. We're proud. We're proud to offer as much support as we can offer. Your organization is just, it's amazing. No child left behind, and working from the yes answer, not the no answer, and all that food. When you come and tell us how many lunches and how many meals, it's staggering. It's just staggering. And you and your volunteers just make it happen. So thank you. We really appreciate your contributions to our schools.
Thank you.
Other trustees, would you have something to say? Trustee Hutchins?
Chairman Kilmer, I just want to echo your words. Fatima, I appreciate your expression of gratitude, but really it's our gratitude for what you and your volunteers do to serve our students in need. So it's
Thank you.
Very proud to be a partner with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Honored. We're very honored. It's a good partnership. Any other comments? So thank you very much. We'll hope to see you again soon, and I'm kind of excited to see what kind of communication we're going to come up with in September.
Thank you.
It'll be fun.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we put this item of communication request from Nourish Cowichan on our next BEC meeting.
We'll second that. Yes. Any conversation with that? And all those in favor? Thank you. Did you get that, Claire? Is that all good? Okay, perfect. Then we go to Mr. Sandquist with our report of our closed meeting.
Thank you, Chair. The board met in closed prior to this open session. There were multiple personnel, property issues, and contract awards discussed and actioned.
And I think that leads us on to old business and our action list, which would still be up here.
Thank you. I'll share the agenda shortly. Oh, one moment. My apologies, just be 1 second. Thank you for waiting. I had accidentally closed it.
It's okay.
So no items from myself. We do have the anti-racism policy that superintendent and I have been assigned to work on, and we believe that will go back to the anti-racism committee for development.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on that from other trustees? No, okay. Well, now for board information from the chair of the board, I guess that would be me today. I would just like to mention 7.11, we had our VISTA, which is Vancouver Island School Trustees Association meeting. We had our annual general meeting in March. It was via Zoom, and because it was via Zoom, most of our trustees were able to attend, which was quite nice. It was recognized at that meeting that mental illness is a concern in our communities and our schools. There is the minutes of this meeting are attached to our agenda. So if you want more information, you're sure welcome to read those. We did have a conversation about Fortis BC offering a program to schools, and it prompted a fair large conversation about corporate messaging in our curriculum and corporate sponsorship in BC schools. So we ended up with a motion on that and are looking into it more, and that's also in those minutes. Stephanie Higginson, our current president, will not be seeking a new term in April. So we were able to send her a fond farewell and send her off on her way. And then they asked that any trustees not running for re-election in October, let the board chairs know so that they can have a farewell dedicated to them at our next meeting as well. 7.1.2, the National Day of Mourning. Our schools and board offices will be flying our flags at half-mast on April 28th to honor the National Day of Mourning. The National Day of Mourning is not only a day to remember and honor those lives lost and injured due to a workplace accident and illness from our workplaces, but also a day to collectively renew our commitment to improve health and safety in our schools and our jobs. People need to go to work safe and come home safe, and it's a job of everyone to ensure that those things happen, and it's a day to remember that. And then we have for board action. Is that me, Mr. Sandquist, or you? C216.
I believe this item was brought forward by Trustee DeGroot, and I'm not sure if she's willing to speak to it, but has the background on it.
Thank you. Are you willing to speak to that, Trustee DeGroot?
This is about writing a letter of support for Bill C-216, the health-based approach to the Substance Use Act. And what the Community Action Team is asking is that we write a letter, well, several letters probably, to the federal government, who are in the process of passing an act to support that. And I did give Candace all of the information. I don't know if you all received that. If you didn't, I can send it to you. But that the motion is that we do that, and I hope that we will write a letter to the Prime Minister and to our MPs and MLAs to support this.
I'll move that motion. Would somebody else like to second it?
I will.
Trustee DeGroot, and do we need any more discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Thank you, Trustee DeGroot.
Thank you.
That moves us on to item 8, which is our superintendent of schools.
All right, thank you very much. Under personnel, I'd like to inform the board that the role of a health and wellness manager has been posted. And this posting went out on March the 11th, and it closes this Friday on April the 8th. This particular position was previously advertised entitled a health and wellness coordinator. And so we look forward to filling that position. And then I'd like to move on to 8.2 for board information. So 8.2.1, we have a new Indigenous focused graduation requirement. And this is coming from the ministry. And so what it really is that basically anyone currently in grade 10 will need 4 credits of Indigenous focused coursework before they graduate. The Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the First Nations Education Committee Steering Committee, is implementing this new graduation requirement. It is expected to take place in 2023-2024. And this requirement will also ensure all secondary students complete Indigenous focused coursework before they graduate from the BC K-12 educational system. It's very exciting, and I know that across the province, many people are really excited about engagement in this process. And so the public engagement will occur and has now been launched on the Government Together BC website, and it will be available until April the 22nd for feedback to the ministry. Students, families, staff, and community partners are encouraged to visit the site and share their thoughts on this proposed approach for the new requirement. And I think that something that is of great interest is that this new course is one of the actions that were identified in BC's Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act Draft Action Plan. And so we're certainly moving forward, and I think it's a very I think momentous mark in terms of what's expected now for all of our graduates in BC public education. And then I'd like to move on, if I could, to 8.2.2. There's a Youth Train and Trades Transition Grant. There is a letter attached. And what this really means is that the ITA is transitioning from a 2-payment plan to a single payment calculation. So of course, I asked our Director of Instruction, Larry Matten, what does that really mean? So he informs me that this new funding model will impact us in a few ways. Funding in all of the different IT areas will be based on projections now and dispersed 3 times a year. That there will be no more completion funds funding for train and trades. We used to lose about $1,000 per student for students who did not pass or drop out, but that's not the case anymore. And that dual enrollment dollars will go directly back to students in the form of tools and equipment. So it's a way of enhancing the program, but also how they allocate money to the district. And the big one, he states, is that changes in the process for registering apprentices has been streamlined. And so the result would be an increase in apprentices in our district, as well as that this came into effect before spring break. Our career department is already at 110 apprentices and growing. Last year, they just came in short of 100 apprentices. So good news with regard to the ITA and their changes that they're making in their model. And then I'd like to move on to my superintendent's update, and there's many things going on in the district. We had a number of people who wanted to share what's happening at their school, but what I'd like to start out with really is acknowledgements and appreciation, which I always do in my report. And so we do know that the Administrative Professionals Day is April the 27th, and this is when we acknowledge the contribution of district's administration support, which keeps this learning operation going very smoothly. And so I know here at the board office, we really acknowledge all of our administrative assistants and professionals throughout that entire week. So we have a really good solid plan, and they will be treated on a daily basis here at our board office. I also want to recognize the staff who worked during the break. So we had payroll, finance, human resources, operations, and technology, all supporting our learners from their positions in operations during the spring break week. And then moving on, I want to share with the board that there has been an update on an exemption around the grad requirements. And so every grade 10 and grade 12 students, they do need to take a numeracy and a literacy assessment. But because there was a postponement for those assessments during a COVID time, that all grade 12 students who completed all their coursework by the end of March 31st may receive an exemption for the grades 10 and 12 literacy assessments. So that's a bit of a change. And it's a change just because we do not want to in any way penalize. We want to support our graduating students. And so if they're not able to actually take those assessments, they will be exempt from those expectations this particular year because of COVID. And then moving on, September the 30th is our National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And so further to a recent province's announcements regarding that day, the government of BC has advised all provincial public sector employees to observe the day in the same way as they did last year. And so we know that this board, our board, passed a motion to observe that day as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, but school districts will recognize September the 30th, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, as a holiday for this year. And so not a holiday per se, but certainly schools will not be in session, and we will be acknowledging and honoring that particular day of truth and reconciliation. Moving on, we do have our annual Cowichan Valley School District Strategic Plan Survey. Last year was the first year we actually put the survey out to all of our employees across the school district. So we have an established baseline in terms of how well we're doing on our strategic plan. And so we will be putting that out to all of our staff on April the 19th. It will close on May the 3rd. And the results of the survey will certainly be shared with the board. And it will also inform our framework for enhancing our student learning report that is due to the ministry at the end of September. So more information will come from that. I do have some photos, and I'm hoping that Secretary Treasurer Sandquist could share. And the first bit of our photos would be around our Cowichan Secondary Replacement Site. And so you'll be able to see here in our first photo, some of that big equipment that's presently on the site. And so if you haven't driven by, you will see that there is some very, very large equipment that is moving a lot of dirt and also doing a lot of drilling. And it's very exciting. And I think it really certainly earmarks the work that's happening in the middle of our city. But I think it's quite interesting because I know our Director of Operations received a call from a parent who is very, very interested in having their children play on those great big mounds of dirt. We told them, unfortunately, they can't. It is a work site. However, I think it certainly was an interesting call that is happening there. And so things are definitely moving forward. And presently right now, we have almost 60% of the design complete. And we're continuing to have meetings with our architect and our builder as we move forward. The next photo you will see is April the 11th on our non-instructional day. We have our featured keynote, Ilse Govan, and what she will be doing is focusing on unpacking privilege in schools. She is an excellent speaker. We have seen her on a number of occasions at the BCSSA level. And so we will be having some pre-discussions. She will be our keynote, and then there will be some after discussions at each one of our school sites with regard to some of the questions that she has posed. So we're very excited to have her here. And then there will be 35 afternoon sessions being offered to staff covering a range of topics. And I do want to share what that range of topics look like. So I have a few here. And so we have reimagining self-care, pathways to community care. And that particular session is being held by Sophia Palmer, a clinical counselor. Another session that we have is Sound Walls in Action, and that is being led by Phaedra Farewell. We have another session on math as a language, strategies for conceptual math instruction and assessment, being led by Jordan Heath. And then just another one, K-9, new reading assessment redesign, being led by Darlene Crane, Karina Fitzner, Amy Loudon, and Brenda Lee. So that would be just a sample of what's occurring on that particular day. And so a lot of excellent offerings, a lot of great educators who are leading those sessions. And there is something there for everyone, including any one of you as well. So feel free to certainly sign in. And then I'd like to move on to our next opportunity of learning across the district. And this is Decolonizing Instruction Learning Series with Maribel Valdez Gonzalez. The learning team, along with Indigenous Education, have partnered to bring PVPs, our managers, as well as this board, the opportunity to be part of a 4-part afternoon learning session. It requires your commitment to attend all of the 4 sessions, and the final one potentially will be face-to-face. Seats are very limited for this session. And so you can see that the first one is decolonizing instruction. Second one is decolonizing project cycles, and then decolonizing identity and decolonizing reflection. So here is quite a renowned leader, and she resides, I believe, in Washington State. And so we have these 4 sessions coming to us. And so what I'd like to do is provide the opportunity for the board as well. And so I will have our executive assistant, Claire Spencer, send it out to any one of you who may want to sign up. So it's an exciting learning opportunity for all of our senior leader and our principal and our vice principal leads. Thank you, Jason. Do you want to just leave that there for a second? I've got a few other items before I move on to the Alexander Wolfpack. So then we also have our Ignite Sounds Bite. Our district learning team is offering some professional learning sessions to staff on April the 21st from 4 to 5:30. We have DLC Learning. The District Learning Commons is offering an opportunity to learn the new booking system, Destiny. We also have Salish Weave Resources, discover the Salish Weave print collection. And we also have ethical aspects of social studies and building cultural empathy as another session. And then lastly, Tech Time, engage your learners with a social media type activity without the social media. So you can see that there's a number of learning opportunities happening across our school district, led by many people who's part of our lovely educational community. I also want to share with the board that we have our mental health initiatives K to 12. And so for our secondary schools, Seavolk, Francis Kelsey, Cowichan Secondary, Lake Cowichan, and Chemainus are currently developing their mental health plans based on the survey results to support mental health and well-being in their schools. So all of those secondary schools are developing those plans. They have a team at each one of their schools, and they are gauging and getting information from staff, community, and students about what their needs may be. So those plans are presently being developed. And then we have a number of elementary schools who are piloting a social emotional learning plan. Bench, Ecole Mont-Prevost, Ecole Cobble Hill, and George Bonner Elementary are all piloting these social emotional learning plans. And one report from Bench Elementary is that they have conducted staff surveys and are currently doing surveys of their students and their parents. Their team is assembled and will be working with this information to determine the strengths and stretches of their school community to develop comprehensive learning opportunities for students to learn the skills to manage their own emotions and their interactions at school and in the community. So excellent work by all of our school teams around the mental health plans. And then moving on to the Alexander Wolfpack, and thank you, Mr. Sandquist. A good news story from Principal Danny Morrow. She states that as the spring approaches, they're excited to see many of our classes engaging in their culture and language lessons outside on the unceded traditional land of the Guatsin Mestimo peoples. Claudia Sylvester, one of their Halkominum language and cultural advisors, and Indigenous education teacher, Vice Principal Kelly Gervin, have been working with classes to make meaningful connections between the land and their learning. While all of our learners from kindergarten to grade 7 are engaging on these land-based days, the learners in grades 4 to 7 are supported in being reflective about their personal and cultural identity and their literacy confidence before, during, and eventually after all of their land-based lessons. They're very excited to discover how the students self-report their connections after spending more time on the local lands. So a submission by Alexander. And then moving on to Ecole Mont-Prevost, they are looking at Ukrainian peace bracelets and a pierogi fundraiser. Teacher at Ecole Mont-Prevost, Deborah Smith, shared with us a positive initiative that her kindergarten class spearheaded the last week before the spring break. She has a student in her class who is Ukrainian Canadian, and he has been teaching the class words in Russian and Ukrainian since September. Miss Smith wrote that 2 weeks before the break, they had a class discussion about what was happening in Ukraine. Her students felt so badly for the boy in her class and his fellow Ukrainian relatives that one of her students exclaimed, "We should do something for peace." By the end of the day, they had decided to code the letter P for peace in both English and French, using pony beads in the colors of the Ukrainian flag. So you can see that there's been a number of initiatives in support of peace at our school sites. Also at the Grove, there has been a student who had success in an Nanaimo Legion poster competition. So at the Grove, Drayden Lee in grade 7 took home top prize for his age group, grades 7 through 9, in the Nanaimo Legion poster competition for his painting, No Soldier Forgotten. Here is a write-up from Drayden. I have done many paintings before this one. I even did a Remembrance Day painting 2 years ago. This is my first time being competitive. I decided that what I want to paint first, then I Googled spirit bears and did lots of sketches, changing the look and what I wanted in the cross section of the bear's stomach. Just the painting took 19 hours to complete. I had my grandmother fill out the paperwork and then I took it to the Legion. I decided to paint a spirit bear for Indigenous veterans and fallen soldiers. My grandmother told me the story of great uncle and how he was treated as a First Nations veteran when he returned home from World War II. He wasn't allowed to vote. He wasn't even allowed to enter a bar with the men he served with. Today, there are still some Indigenous soldiers that are not recognized, living and dead, and no soldier should be forgotten. So there we have it from Drayden Lee. And then moving on to our last photo, and I believe it was in one of our local newspapers. Students at CVOC are working to support the new residents of the Cowichan Housing Association's The Village by creating beautiful picnic tables as a place to gather. And this particular story is also on our district website. Okay, thank you very much. And then there's more. Okay, there's much more here. A Tanzer update from Updesh, Chima. The intermediate students at Tanzer are fortunate to have Robin McDowell, who runs the Rugby Academy at Cowichan Secondary, come work with students to continue to build and grow non-contact flag rugby skills in early April. The students will then be participating in the School District 79 4th Annual Cowichan Valley Rookie Rugby Jamboree in late May. At the May 6th Pro D, some of the staff from Tanzer will be involved in building a localized nature resource to go along with their wonderful forested area. The resource would include a number of activities from STEM, outdoor play, seasonal scavenger hunt, and First Peoples principles of learning and nature journals. And they are very excited to create this resource for their particular community. And then I want to talk about Francis Kelsey. They have registered as a community volunteer income tax clinic. So with Jeff Rowan, the principal's support, the school is registered as a community volunteer income tax clinic where students in grades 11 and 12 will be helping each other with their personal income tax returns and filing in April of 2022. Mary Brinkman and Aaron Egland, who I believe is on our call today, are organizing and coordinating the activities in tandem with Student Parliament. Mary is a long-time careers and business educator at Francis Kelsey and education advisor for the Junior Achievement BC Association. And of course, Aaron Eglin is our Associate Secretary Treasurer for Cowichan Valley School District and a tax professor at VIU and UBC Sauder School of Business. Students will participate in 4 45-minute lunch hour seminars as preparation for tax return processing, understanding tax law and compliance, and using the CRA tax filing software. So you can see some excellent opportunities for our students at Francis Kelsey. It's a way to give back to the community. It's learning about basic income tax, applying general income deduction and tax credit knowledge, gain practical experience for life outside of school, and gain 30 hours of work-related experience. So volunteer registration will conclude on Thursday, March 31st, and an update on the success of the clinic will be provided to the board in May. And just a few more things. There's a skills competition update from Ryan Goff. He's our coordinator of careers. And on April the 7th from 11:30 to 2, the dual credit students will be competing in a chowder competition at the Cowichan campus. On April the 21st, 24 young women will be attending the Women in Trades event at Camosun College. And then on April the 21st, our culinary dual credit students and our high school students will be in competition at the Cowichan campus in a Skills Canada regional competition. He also is letting us know that $45,000 has been awarded to our youth apprentices this spring, $1,000 to 45 youth apprentices. He hopes, and I'm sure we all do, that next year we can go back to that proper check presentation celebration that we normally have with them. We just haven't been able to gather in these particular times around that. And then moving on to some research projects that have been approved here by the district. Lila Boulay, one of our own psychologists here, is leading research with the support of UVic in understanding the impacts of COVID-19 that what it has had on the developing component literacy skills. And the research is focused on grade 3 students who had been in grade 1 when the pandemic began. 5 schools are participating in this research, and the information will let us better understand the gaps and how we can successfully support these learners as they emerge from 2 years of navigating the pandemic in their early years. The research began last fall with the initial assessments, and data will be collected this spring, and we'll have a really good understanding of the full data cycle after 1 year in terms of how do we support our learners around that. So a great project in partnership with UVic, with one of our very own psychologists here in the district. We've also approved a master's research project. Approval has been granted to Matthew King. It's a national project coordinator at Queen's University to do a master's research entitled Health Behavior in School-Aged Children. And so the purpose of the research is to compare health and health behaviors of adolescents across time and across countries and provinces and territories. There's 2 schools who have actually have been selected as part of the study, École-Mont-Prévost and Chemainus Secondary. And what it's going to do is provide an excellent platform to study the impact of COVID and COVID-related health and education policies on specific aspects of adolescent health and well-being. And finally, I will be attending a learning session actually in the next 2 days on system leadership and contextual literacy. And the session is being held and presented by Jordan Tinney. And it is specifically designed around leadership conversations through the exploration of our own association's leadership competencies through case studies. So that will be happening on Thursday. I'm also well aware that on this Friday, we also have an event that a number of our staff are attending, and it will be led by Monique Gray Smith around reconciliation, as well as Hayden Drew Taylor, who is also an Indigenous writer. And so we have many people who will be attending that at Weston Bayshore on Friday and having further learning about truth and reconciliation. And that is my superintendent's update. Any questions?
Wow, that was a lot considering we've had a 2-week break as well.
Very much. So you can see our schools are very busy.
I love the tax thing. That's just right in with our strategic plan. That was well up on the board. Parents and kids and everybody wanted that. So that's really exciting. So was all the rest of it. That really struck a great chord. Any comments, trustees? Okay, seeing none, we will go on to, where am I? Oh, for board action.
Okay, on 8.3 on page 18 and 19 of your package, you are going to see a briefing note with regard to Mill Bay Nature School. You can see that the subject is Quikwall Sitsi, Let's Talk Mill Bay Nature School's new plan for students in grades 6 and 9. And so if you recall, Principal Andrick came to the board, BEBC, and presented the fact that she has been working on a new plan for grade 7s next year. And so we would be looking at expanding Mill Bay Nature School from K to grade 9s all the way up to September of 2024 to 2025. The clans will be multi-age, multi-grade configurations. And she has been working with students, staff, and parents to co-create an option to facilitate the growth of this new program. And so it would be staffed by teachers who are presently part of Mill Bay Nature School. And it is an exciting opportunity for both the school community and the community at large to continue with the vision that the board had originally for a K-7 program, but actually expanding it to K-9, but within a clan concept. And if you recall, she would have worked very closely with some local elders to design this program that will really be focusing on learning on the land, learning in a variety of different places, but still also having a home base at their particular school site. So there is a recommendation for the board's consideration. And it states that, that's okay. Thanks. I will find it. It states that for the board's consideration that the Board of Education approves adding Queequeg Let's Talk Clan to Mill Bay Nature School to create a kindergarten to grade 9 school by the 2024-2025 school year.
Great. Trustee Hutchins, are you moving that?
Yes, I am.
You are, perfect. And Trustee DeGroot, second, perfect. Any conversation on the motion? Trustee DeGroot.
So what they are looking at then is to have it fully developed by 2024-25, but they'll be starting next year. Is that right?
That is correct. With the current grade 7s that will be moving into grade 7.
Okay.
And I think it certainly was initiated by parents who are wondering what was going to happen after grade 7. And so keenly interested in continuing the learning in the way that they work through a clan process, multi-graded within that community environment.
Thank you. Any other questions to the motion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much, Superintendent. That really was quite the update. I'm still thinking about that. Okay, we're on to the Secretary Treasurer with a very hard act to follow, really.
Always.
Always.
Coming in with board information, an update on the 2022-2023 budget progress, what has happened to date. The board met, or the Board Education and Business Committee met on March 29th to review both the funding estimate as received from the Ministry of Education, as well as the opening budget position. So at that meeting, a number of inflationary pressures were reviewed and an opening position of a $2.4 million shortfall before bringing in any surplus was identified. Last Friday, the board met in a liaison meeting with rights holders to collect feedback on the budget and on the surplus. Today, staff worked on developing options to assist the board in balancing the budget, as well as options for items that are not currently in the budget, but support the board's strategic priorities. And those will come forward next week, next Thursday at the special Board Education and Business Committee meeting. And later this week on Friday, there will be the liaison meetings with all of the partner groups that were not covered off on the previous Friday. So the board will meet with CUPE, the CVTF, the USW, DPAC, and DSAC, and collect feedback on the budget at that opportunity. So going on to board action. After all the paperwork has been finalized, boards are required to pass a bylaw on school disposals. So Crofton Elementary was concluded in January and is now ready for the disposal bylaw, which has been included in the package. And then this bylaw gets submitted to the Ministry of Education, which closes off the property disposal file. So before you are 3 readings and 1 consideration of giving 3 readings of disposal of real property bylaw 2202 Old Crofton Elementary tonight.
Thank you. Trustee DeGroot. You move the first motion that the Board of Education School District gives the first reading, the disposal of real property. And who's seconding that? Trustee Hutchins. Any conversation on that? All those in favor? Motion carries. Do we have a mover that the Board of Education gives the second reading of disposal of real property bylaw number 2022-02? Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee Hutchins. Any conversation? All those in favor? Do we have a mover that the Board of Education consider giving 3 readings of disposal of real property bylaw number 22-02 at this meeting? Moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? I need a mover that the Board of Education of School District number 79 gives third and final reading of disposal of real property bylaw number 22-02 Old Crofton Elementary. Moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. My next item of business is the formal response from the Ministry of Education related to the 5-year capital plan that was submitted earlier this year. The letter is attached and I'm going to share the screen and go over the highlights. And then after that, I'll ask for a bylaw to accept the capital plan. So I think the first highlight of the award is that the demolition of Avery Greenwell, a project that the board has been asking for some time, has been supported. Right now, that demolition project is estimated at approximately $1.9 million. And we are very close to being able to tender that, as we already had the business case and the tender documents prepared in advance when we submitted to the ministry. So I think that's positive. That is a building that has been in very poor repair and sits on Crown land and has no value to the board from a disposal process, because we actually can't dispose of the property. It reverts back to the Crown. Lots of community interest in that property once the school has been removed. Minor capital, there's 3 projects here that total just over 1.7 million, and they all relate to heating and ventilation and air conditioning upgrades, HVAC, and you can see them there: Francis Kelsey, Chemaina Secondary, and Quamachin School. So that was a fair share of those programs, supporting those projects for the board. And the final portion of the letter is approval should the board wish to enter into a school site acquisition charge bylaw for purchase of future schools. The ministry has now supported that in relation to 3 properties that were included in, not 3 specific properties, 3 identified areas of future need, 1 in the South Zone, 1 in the North Zone, and 1 in the Maple Bay area. And coming back, in order to activate the funding, we now need a board motion.
Okay, could I please have somebody motion that the Board of Education of School District number 79 gives first reading to the capital plan bylaw number 2201? Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Croft. Any questions? All those in favor? We need a motion that the Board of Education of School District number 79 gives second reading to the capital plan bylaw number 2201. Moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee DeGroot, and all those in favor? And that the Board of Education of School District number 79 considers giving 3 readings to capital plan bylaw 2201 at this meeting. Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Doman. All those in favor? And lastly, that the Board of Education of School District number 79 gives third and final reading to capital plan bylaw number 2201. Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Doman, and all those in favor. Thank you.
And thank you. And to be really specific, these are dust extraction systems in the shops at those 3 schools. The next item I have came forward from Board Education Business Committee. It's a minor update to board policy, number 2, role of the board. And I'll just bring up that change. Previously, the bylaw read that the board would approve fee schedules for academies and international students. This amendment includes out-of-province students, as the board is now entertaining more students through the academies that will be coming in from outside of the province. And later in the agenda, there's a tuition fee motion coming forward from BEBC as well. So there is a motion here that the board amends policy 2, role of the board, as presented. And you can see the highlights of that change in the policy.
Moved by trustee Croft, seconded by trustee DeGroot. Have we got any discussion on the matter? All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, well, that takes us on to committees and outside organizations. So the first one is Early Learning and Childcare Committee. Trustee DeGroot, would you move that motion, please? So moved that we received the draft minutes of the February 4th, seconded by myself, trustee Kemmler. All those in favor? Motion carried. The highlights of the February 10th DSAC meeting, we accept those minutes, was attended by myself, so I will move that motion. Do I have a seconder? Trustee DeGroot, and all those in favor? Trustee Hutchins, the minutes of the February 22nd BEBC meeting,
So moved.
seconded by trustee DeGroot, and all those in favor. Thank you. And the highlights of the March 10th, 2022 DSAC meeting, trustee Spilsbury attended, so I will move that we accept those minutes. Do we have a seconder? Trustee DeGroot, and all those in favor. We had several motions arising from the March 29th, 2022 BEBC meeting. The first of those motions was that the Board of Education of School District number 79 Cowichan Valley approves the 2023, 24, and 24-25 International Student Program fees as presented. Mr. Sandquist, would you like to show us that?
Well, so this is the fee schedule that was forwarded from Board Education and Business Committee. So with
We have a
approval
mover?
of the motion, those will be implemented.
Have a mover for that. Trustee Hutchins, seconded by trustee DeGroot. In any conversation, do we need to see it again or were we good? All those in favor? Mr. Sandquist, do you want to do the other 2 motions or would you like me to carry on?
Well, I'm happy to introduce them. The Board of Education and Business Committee also considered a motion on the creation of a new early learning manager position in the 2022-2023 budget. This was a motion that was amended from considers to an actionable item to create a early learning position, and it's before the board for consideration.
We have a mover, trustee DeGroot, and a seconder. Trustee Hutchins, and conversation, and you have comments? Trustee Doman.
This position is kind of out of our, it's out of our box because it doesn't really involve education. And I know we've approved daycares and et cetera, but those all came with funding, and now we want to manage this without funding from the provincial government. Just takes money out of our educational budget to do this. And I know the province is looking to move in this direction, but if we're doing it, why are they going to come up with funding? It just does not make any sense. This is something that's a provincial government matter, not something that local boards should be dealing with, and having to pull out of our budget just takes money away from our kids.
Superintendent or Mr. Sandquist? Superintendent.
Thank you very much. I think that part of the discussion and rationale behind this particular actionable motion, I think that it came with a briefing note at our Board Education Business Committee meeting. It discussed the fact that presently right now we have 5 childcare sites that we're looking to coordinate. We also have an early learning coordinator who actually supports and leads our partners across our school district in terms of early learning. And I believe that there's a number of things that our staff are presently doing right now between our Associate Superintendent's Office, our Director of Operations, as well as our Early Learning Coordinator in terms of preparing our early learners for school. And so presently right now we are led and by the Ministry of Education around the early learning framework, which is 0 to 8. And also within our strategic plan, there has been a focus on early learning. I think it would be our attempt as a school district to support learners before they get into the kindergarten program. But we're also well aware that the Ministry of Education, as of April 1st, has turned into the Ministry of Education and Early Learning and Childcare. It is certainly, Trustee Doman is correct. It is certainly not funded presently at this time, but it is an area that MCFD, the Ministry of Family and Children, and the Ministry of Education is currently getting feedback from across the province and engaging with all of our communities around how to move forward to support this particular endeavor.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussions on this motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Would you like your vote recorded, Trustee Doman?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, Trustee Croft?
Well, Trustee Dolman does have an excellent point. I think we're a little bit between a rock and a hard place in order to continue doing what we're doing. We do need this position. But I wonder if it would be worthwhile to ask staff to make some inquiries of the ministry about whether they're thinking about this kind of funding for this kind of administrational level, and then get back to the board. I'd be happy to make that a motion if it's not problematic.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Trustee Hutchins? Is there any more conversation on the motion? Trustee Hutchins?
But that is not a condition of this going forward. I'm just going to ask that of the mover. Thank you.
No.
What was done? Okay. Any other conversation on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Did you get that, Claire? Thank you. Okay. Back to you, Mr. Sandquist.
Thank you. And then the next motion that came forward from Board Education and Business Committee was related to the policy 2 rule of the board motion that was just passed, and that was that the board gave approval to establishing out of province tuition rates, and 12,400 was what was proposed, which is the equivalent or very close to the equivalent of the First Nations block rate, which takes all of the district's provincial funding and divides it by the total number of students to get the actual funding per student. So it is here as a recommendation that it be established so it can be communicated to the academies for 2022-2023, and then look at a review prior to establishing the 23-24 rate.
Are you moving the motion, Trustee DeGroot?
Yes.
Seconder? trustee Hutchins, conversation on the motion. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, then we go to our schedule of meetings and events, which was a very long one. So it looks like we're very busy for a while.
We can take the question mark off of my attendance at DPAC. I will be going. But
Oh,
I
great.
didn't confirm in time for the document, but I did confirm.
Thank you. Is there any other concerns or things we may need to add or take off of there? Great. Thank you. We have some correspondence that's also added to our agenda. Does it need to be spoken to? Anybody? No? The motion is just that we receive the correspondence from the municipality of North Cowichan. Somebody want to move that? Trustee Croft, seconded by trustee DeGroot. Any conversation on the correspondence? All those in favor? Motion carries. Question period.
Okay, so this is where we monitor the question and answers, and we usually give a brief period of time to see if anybody will submit a question. Currently, there is nothing here. It doesn't appear there's anybody typing, but if we give it another 10 seconds, then we'll be clear from question period. We see no questions. I believe you can proceed.
Okay, well then we need a motion to adjourn, please. If there being no further business, we can adjourn. Trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Croft, and all those in favor. Great, motion carried. Thank you, everybody.